Hi, I'm Calliope, and last night at my brother's project launch, he called me his little hobbyist in front of all his investors. But the thing is, they were celebrating in a skyscraper I designed. He didn't know it. Not yet. Worse than the insult was how familiar it felt. Like being a ghost was just my designated role on the family blueprint. The meeting was held in the firm's conference room, a space I designed as an unpaid intern and never got credit for. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and desperation. My brother, Liam, sat slumped in a chair, his leg propped up in a bulky cast. My father stood by the window, arms crossed, refusing to look at me. Only Mr. Sterling, Liam's boss and my father's business partner, met my gaze. He looked tired. My father turned to me, his expression devoid of warmth. "Your brother says there's a problem with your design. Fix it." His words didn't land like a request. It was a command, laced with the old assumption that my work was inherently flawed, and his son was the victim of it. He was shifting blame before I'd even seen the plans. The casual cruelty of it was breathtakingly familiar. I walked to the table, my heels clicking on the concrete floor. My fingers ghosted over the title block. Where Liam's name was printed in bold, I didn't need to look at the blueprint. I'd spent 6 months of my life on that project before they pushed me out and handed it to him to finish. I knew every line, every angle, every single point of structural stress. "The problem isn't my design," I said, my voice calm and even. "It's the materials. You switched the specified I-beams for a cheaper, lower-grade steel to cut costs. Didn't you?" I looked at Liam. "That saved you." "What?" 3% on the budget, but it compromised the tensile strength by 25%. The foundation pour was also done in temperatures too low for proper curing, creating microfractures. It's not one error. It's a cascade of incompetence. Silence. Liam's face went pale. My father's jaw tightened. "Mr." Sterling just sighed, running a hand over his face. He knew I was right. I picked up my briefcase. The entire substructure needs to be torn down and rebuilt. It's not a fix. It's a total loss. I paused at the door and turned back to face them. The 3 men who had built their careers on my foundations. My consultation fee is $5,000. My assistant will be in touch regarding the invoice. I didn't wait for a response. I just closed the door behind me, leaving them in the ruins they had built for themselves. There's a kind of disrespect that doesn't announce itself with a shout. It arrives quietly, with the stain from a coffee cup. I was 17, and I had stayed up for 3 straight nights, finishing my portfolio for a prestigious scholarship competition. It was my entire world, bound in black leather detailed sketches of cantilevered homes, complex 3D models of public libraries, handwritten notes on sustainable urban planning. It was the best work I had ever done. I brought it into the living room to show my father, my hands trembling slightly with a mixture of pride and exhaustion. He glanced at it, then set his coffee mug directly on top of my best rendering, leaving a wet, brown ring on the page. "It's a nice little hobby, Calliope," he said, not even noticing. "But Liam needs help with his math homework." Priorities. My mother found me in my room later, trying to blot the stain with a paper towel, tears silently streaming down my face. She didn't comfort me. She sighed. That familiar, weary sound that always preceded a lecture. "All this art, it's a distraction. It sends the wrong message to the community. Calliope, it makes it look like you think you're better than us." That was their core belief. My ambition was an indictment of their contentment. My dreams were an embarrassment. The scholarship wasn't just about the money, though we certainly needed it. It was about a letter of acceptance from a world that saw value in what my family called a distraction. It wasn't just tuition. It was an escape hatch. I never showed them my work again. I built my portfolio in secret, took on extra shifts at a diner to pay for supplies, and submitted my applications from the library computer. I learned to exist in the margins of their lives. I became an expert in making myself small. I'd sit at family gatherings, listening to them praise Liam for winning a local bowling tournament while my acceptance letter to one of the top architectural programs in the country sat folded in my pocket. Their silence was a tool. They used it to carve out a space for me that was so small, so constricting, that they assumed I would never have the strength to break out of it. They never celebrated my achievements because, in their narrative, those achievements didn't exist. I wasn't the brilliant daughter. I was the difficult one, the one who didn't know her place. The last time I saw them before I left for college, my father handed me $100. For books, he said, his tone suggesting immense generosity. Don't go wasting it on those fancy pens. He didn't hug me. He didn't wish me luck. He just inspected his handiwork. A daughter finally trimmed down to a manageable size and walked away. I never cashed the check. I framed it as a reminder of what their support was worth. The $5,000 invoice was paid without a word for a week. There was only silence. I knew it wouldn't last. Their kind of pride was a wounded animal. It always bites back. The first call came from my mother. Her voice was syrupy, a tone she reserved for manipulation. Calliope. Honey, we were all saying how proud we were of you the other day. She began. A lie so smooth, it was almost impressive. Your father and I were thinking, Liam's going to be off his feet for a while. The firm needs family. Maybe you could step in. The offer was ludicrous. Step in. They didn't want me. They wanted a janitor to clean up their mess. And they wanted her to do it for free. Out of a sense of familial duty they had never shown me. I'm afraid my schedule is full for the foreseeable future. I said, my voice professionally bland. My firm is taking on 3 new municipal projects. Your firm. The syrup in her voice curdled. Calliope. This is your family's firm. This is your legacy. No, I said the word, a clean, sharp cut. It's your legacy. I'm building my own. I ended the call before she could respond. The next day, the real attack began. A voicemail from my father. There was no preamble. No false warmth. Just cold. Hard fury. You owe us. His voice rasped through the speaker. We gave you your name. Don't think for a second. We can't take it away. You will help your brother. Or you will find out just how small this town can be. It wasn't an empty threat. My father had spent 30 years cultivating relationships in this city. He was a master of the backroom deal. The whispered rumor, he could poison my reputation with a few well-placed phone calls, framing me as an ungrateful daughter who abandoned her family in their time of need. He was threatening to tear down the life I had meticulously built, brick by brick, because I refused to be their scapegoat one more time. The war wasn't about a building anymore. It was about my name. The rumors started subtly. A potential client mentioned they'd heard I was difficult to work with. A contractor I'd known for years suddenly became hesitant to return my calls. My father was working the phones, painting a picture of me as unstable, arrogant, and unreliable a liability. He was trying to dismantle my professional foundation with the same casual disdain he'd shown my portfolio years ago. For a single, cold moment, I was 16 again, standing in the living room with a coffee-stained portfolio, my voice shaking, the old fear coiled in my stomach, whispering that they were right, that I was nothing. Then I took a breath. I wasn't that girl anymore. I had receipts. I spent the next 48 hours in my office, not designing, but excavating. I went through years of archived emails, project files, and personal journals. I found the original digital blueprints for the collapsed project, time-stamped a full year before Liam's name ever appeared on them. I found emails where I'd warned my father about using substandard materials on other jobs, warnings that were ignored. I found my mother's messages, alternating between pleas for me to be more like my brother and criticisms of my unfeminine ambition. I compiled it all into a single, password-protected file. It wasn't an emotional scrapbook. It was a cold, factual timeline of sabotage and neglect. Then, I called my lawyer. The cease and desist letter he drafted was a work of art. It was delivered by courier to my father's office and my parents' home. It didn't just demand they stop their slanderous campaign. It stated, in no uncertain terms, that any further defamatory actions would be met with a lawsuit seeking punitive damages for libel and tortious interference with business. It also contained a single, protected link to the file I had compiled, with a note explaining that this was only a fraction of the evidence that would be presented during discovery. I wasn't playing their game of whispers and insinuations. I was responding with the only language power understands consequences. I wasn't asking them to stop. I was informing them that I would burn their carefully constructed world to the ground if they forced my hand. The phone calls stopped. The rumors died down. For the first time, their silence felt like fear. Weeks passed in a fragile truce. I was archiving old client work late one night when an automated email popped up, "Your family cloud storage is 95% full." I hadn't thought about that account in years. My mother had set it up ages ago to share holiday photos. I almost deleted the email, but curiosity got the better of me. I logged in. It was mostly what I expected: awkward family portraits, vacation photos I was conspicuously absent from, old tax documents. But there was one folder I didn't recognize, labeled Liam Business. My heart hammered against my ribs. I clicked it. Inside, nestled between invoices and supplier contracts, was a file that made the air leave my lungs. It was a PDF of my scholarship submission from high school, my entire portfolio, the one with the coffee stain, and next to it, an audio file, a phone recording. My hand trembled as I pressed play. It was Liam and my father. Dated the night before the scholarship deadline. My father's voice was low, conspiratorial. "You have the file?" "Yeah." Liam replied, his voice tinny. "Are you sure about this?" "Dad, it's all her work." "It's good work," my father said, a chilling pride in his tone. "And it's going to waste on her. She doesn't need this. You do. Just change the name on the title page and send it from your email. I'll log into her account and delete the original. She'll just think she missed the deadline." A wave of nausea washed over me. It wasn't just that they'd stolen it. It was the calculated cruelty, the deliberate erasure. They hadn't just tripped me, they had sawed a hole in the floor and watched me fall through. I had spent years believing I had simply failed, that I wasn't good enough. The truth was so much worse. I did some digging. The grant was for $40,000. It was a prestigious award given to one promising young designer in the state. I remembered that same year. My father's firm was struggling. There were whispers of bankruptcy. $40,000. It wasn't just seed money for his career. It was the exact amount they needed to pay off a business loan that would have bankrupted their firm that year. They didn't just build his future on my work. They saved their present. They had stolen my escape hatch to patch a hole in their own sinking ship. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was criminal. The invitation to be the keynote speaker at the Regional Architectural Guild Awards was an honor I almost declined. Public speaking wasn't my arena. I preferred to let my buildings speak for me. But when I saw that my father's firm was being given a legacy award at the same event, I accepted immediately. I chose my outfit with care, a sharp, minimalist black dress. No frills. No apologies. As I walked to the podium, the lights warm on my face. I saw them at a table near the front. My father, my mother, and Liam. His cast finally gone, but his posture still stooped. They looked small under the grand chandeliers, like ghosts from a life I'd long since demolished. I saw the ghost of the girl who used to sit at the edge of family parties, sipping ginger ale from a wine glass she didn't ask for. She was afraid of rooms like this. I wasn't. I started my speech by thanking the guild. I spoke about the future of design, about sustainability and community. I spoke about integrity. We, as architects, are entrusted with a profound responsibility. I said, my voice ringing clear and steady through the ballroom. We build the spaces where people live, work, and dream. We build foundations, and we learn early on that a structure is only as strong as its most integral parts. You can't use cheap materials and expect a skyscraper to stand. You can't cut corners on a blueprint and expect a bridge to hold. I let my eyes drift over to their table. My father was staring at his plate. My mother was fiddling with her napkin. Liam wouldn't look at me. Some believe you can build a legacy on a faulty foundation. I continued, my voice dropping slightly. Drawing the audience in, they believe you can cover up the cracks with a fresh coat of paint, that you can steal a design and call it your own, hoping no one will ever check the original schematics. They believe that if they just keep telling the story of their success, loudly and confidently, that no one will notice the structural rot within. The room was utterly silent. I could feel hundreds of pairs of eyes on me. But I was only speaking to 3 people. But we know the truth, don't we? We know that integrity is the steel rebar in the concrete of our work. Without it, everything turns to dust. I took a breath and looked directly at my father. He finally met my gaze. His face, a mask of pale fury. Because a foundation built on lies will always, eventually, collapse under its own weight? I smiled. A small, calm, devastating smile. Thank you. The applause was thunderous. I walked off the stage and didn't look back. I didn't need to see their faces. I had already shown them the blueprint of their own destruction. I spent years thinking closure would come like a wrecking ball, a dramatic confrontation, a tearful apology, a final, explosive reckoning. But it didn't. My peace came in the quiet moments after the awards ceremony. It came while sipping tea in my apartment, watching the city lights flicker to life. It came in the sudden, liberating realization that I no longer needed anything from them. Not an apology, not a confession, and certainly not their approval. They hadn't just tried to erase my name from a blueprint. They tried to live in a building I designed without ever understanding its strength. And now, The walls were coming down. Their legacy award felt like an epitaph. The firm declared bankruptcy 6 months later. My father's reputation, built on whispers, was undone by them. My closure wasn't something they gave me. It was something I designed and built for myself, on my own terms, with the strongest materials I could find. It wasn't forgiveness. It was clarity. It was the quiet hum of a life that finally, completely belonged to me. They called me a placeholder, a ghost. But I was the architect of my own life all along. They were just living in my shadow. Sometimes the peace we're searching for doesn't come from being heard by those who refuse to listen. It comes from realizing we no longer need them to. Now, I want to hear your story. Have you ever had to draw your own blueprint for a life that others couldn't envision for you? Did any part of this story feel like it was built from your own experiences? Drop a comment with the word blueprint if this hit home. Or just let me know where you're watching from today. And if it didn't connect, I want to hear that too. What part of the structure felt weak to you? Your feedback helps build the next story. If you found a foundation here that felt true, don't forget to subscribe. There are more blueprints to share, more structures to explore, and maybe one of them will feel just like home. Thank you for watching.